Hi guys. All right, so yeah, here we go. So I'm going to talk to you guys mainly about design. I hope there's a lot of designers in the room. Can we have a show of hands? Who's a designer here? Oh, awesome. Okay, and some developers. Best of both worlds. I love it. Okay, so I'm Marc Rust. I'm a creative director for Boston Digital. We actually used to be Boston Interactive, just renamed. And I love my job. It's really cool. I lead up a team of digital natives, meaning people that started in digital. We don't really have many people that went from print into web or digital. So we all kind of have that understanding of how the progression, and we kind of witnessed how digital has been changing the world and changing communication, information economy, etc. And it's absolutely fascinating. We pride ourselves in kind of being a strategy shop. I like working with people who, took their toys apart as kids and are just infectiously obsessed with the way things work, and that translates to the way businesses work. And I just feel like for us, meaning digital designers, developers, whatever, opportunities are only increasing because digital is business, and I'm going to get into that today. And then I'm going to talk about how you motivate teams to work well together. I mean, it feels like the time of having war, kind of a friendly battle or unfriendly battle between developers and designers is kind of over, because there's so many opportunities to do things, and there's definitely better ways and better processes around working efficiently. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about value, what it is to deliver value. I realize this is a super long sentence. I showed this to my wife last night, and she was like, "That is crazy." So anyway. But the thing is that the risk that graphic design is appreciated only for its aesthetic qualities and not as a complex entity is over. And what I mean by that is that teams work together, and today's cutting edge is tomorrow's mainstream. So the separation between graphics being there to make something look beautiful, or to just dress up the content, or to be a beautiful front end to a complex back end, those days are gone. Things are really more about, are far more intertwined. And I believe that the more you intertwine those things earlier on in a project, the more successful you're going to be. And there's no reason that any digital project shouldn't have amazing functionality. Just doing a website that is pure HTML and behaves like a website that behaved 8 years ago, that's not acceptable anymore. People want that piece of audacity. They want something that delights them. So, and I spoke a little bit about this earlier. I mean, the nature of business is digital. And what I mean by that is that digital is occupying a bigger seat at the table of entrepreneurship and business than ever before. If there's a CEO out there that is not preoccupied with digital, then they're going to fail. And I work for an agency, and we have really two types of clients. Number one is the small to mid-sized client for whom digital has kind of been an afterthought, and they need to change, and if they don't change, they will fail. So we need to kind of help them. And that isn't just doing a beautiful website or a beautiful app. It's really going in and understanding their business and helping their business change and seeing the opportunities and kind of giving them those glasses that they so need desperately in order to understand how business has evolved. And then the other type of clients are these big clients that have relied on big agencies like Hill Holliday or Arnold, whatever, for whom digital is really kind of a side business rather than their main business, and that I feel like that is yet to come. The days of traditional marketing where you broadcast a message and wait for an echo is working less and less, you know. Unfortunately, the people who don't understand digital are still using digital in a traditional way, believe it or not. That's like the people who spam, the people who, who use email and just because I bought something at Amazon doesn't give you the right to send me 3 emails a week and spam me. Even though I said it was okay to maybe send me something, sending me something is one thing, but sending me spam is another. It's about value. It's about building value. So it's a great opportunity for us. And here's an approach that I absolutely love. And I know it's when you kind of read it out, it's a no-brainer, but people don't really think of this. This is called the POST method. I don't know if anybody's heard of this before, but it's an idea where you really start with your needs. So it's POST method. It stands for people, objective, strategy, and technology. People is your audience, right? You look at your audience, you look at your audience's needs, and you analyze that, and then you go to your objectives. And the objectives is the business objectives. So this might be the objectives of your business or the objectives of your client. For example, hey, we need to increase sales by 20%. We need to sell more socks online. And you really look at those 2 elements and you derive strategy out of that. And then the last thing in line is technology. And for the developers in the room, I'm sure you guys kind of like that technology is last, because then you can really craft the best map, the best roadmap, the best solution for the strategy. Believe it or not, a lot of people start with technology for some reason. I've had clients come to me and say, oh, we want a WordPress website. Well, why? Oh, because, my cousin has one and he really likes it. So we should do WordPress. Or, we should advertise on Facebook, because Facebook ads are just awesome right now. Are your users on Facebook? Is your audience there? So that's unfortunately what happens. But fortunately for us, we can go and speak to people with a process where you really start with the people, objectives, strategy, and then find the correct response. So how can you be creative with your development team? And this is really crucial in order to deliver delight. It's for me, it's really to start early and bring your development team and have teams work together and collaborate together and have that become something natural even before a project starts. So the way I think you get there is really through culture, collaboration, and motivation. And you can't just say, oh, let's have a great culture, let's have people collaborate, and let's just motivate them. That isn't the way to get there. You really need to kind of force it. And so what I've done at our agency is we've started these collaboration breakfasts. And they're spearheaded by the design team. And people go there for bagels. Everybody loves bagels and stuff. But we really force people to collaborate. And it's not about the breakfast. It's about different teams getting together and talking. And so we give them something to do. And so this is one where this was the first one where we had everybody got a post-it on their back with the name of a famous personality, and they had to guess who it was by asking yes and no questions. And we had rules like you have to ask somebody from a different department, and so that kind of encouraged this cross-pollination. I know it sounds ridiculous, but this type of stuff really had an impact on the culture inside the company. And so this is another one where we were redesigning our hoodies, and we had people design hoodies. And then this last one was, since we renamed the company, if you guys were listening, we renamed the company and we used our old business cards, and we had people make towers. This is just small, little, dorky things that really do resonate because it gets people to talk and to do something different than just a project. They're not driven by something. They're driven by amusement, fun, whatever it is. And that really does motivate people to go forward and kind of talk about other things, get used to being together. But motivation also comes from interest. It comes from what you're driven by. And what we try to do, and we encourage people to do, is really to look for the allies within your organization or outside of your organization. If you're trying to start to do a startup, try to find the person that actually thinks differently than you or completes you in that way. Because it's really about being obsessed with how things work and having those conversations. We have as many conversations about user experience that we do about electronics or customer service or anything like that. So when you have that motivation, you can make amazing things happen. And when we talk in the world of user experience, I feel like sometimes the conversation is kind of sidetracked. It falls into being all about the technology, being all about the marketing message. But one thing we shouldn't forget is that it's really about value, and it's about how that we're trying to deliver a relationship to people. People only gravitate towards products or towards companies or towards services because it's giving them some sort of value. And I feel like that as simple as it is, people often kind of don't put value first. And one thing I like is, and I call this the mindset of the modern marketer. The mindset of the modern marketer is, I will deliver value in everything that I do. And that means every time I come into contact with a customer or a client. And over time, that value will translate to trust. And trust is absolutely priceless in the skeptical world that we live in. So that Amazon email that I'm getting over and over, or from whatever million companies that I get spam from, that's not delivering value. And that's actually tarnishing their brand. Because they're using it in that traditional way. Like 12 years ago, I worked for JP Morgan. And I was in the web department at JP Morgan. I wasn't a finance guy, but I was still in design and stuff. This is just the way I got into this. But I was working at JP Morgan, and they were just absolutely crazy about emails. They sent emails out all the time. And we would have meetings where we'd talk about open rates. And it was all about the open rate. And I don't know how you guys use email, but I mean, I open emails and delete them. Sometimes I just delete them without opening them. So that open rate means absolutely nothing. And it's absolutely crazy. And the open rate would be something like 5%, and they'd pat each other on the back going, oh, that's amazing. So you mean to tell me that you're pissing off 95 people out of 100, so 5 can open it, and you don't even know if those 5 are taking action on it? I can go on and on about this. Sorry. So how do we get there? Well, I mean, honestly, we sit in the room and we talk. We talk about the end goal. We talk about, okay, what are we trying to do with this? What is this company trying to do? Because a company might come to you and say, hey, we need a new website because, there's somebody whispering in the ear of the CEO saying, hey, your website sucks every 5 minutes. And he's like, I know, we got to get to this thing. I say website because it just so happens that the website so often happens to be the epicenter of your marketing, your digital marketing presence, right? From that, it might be branding. From that, it might be video. It might be an app, whatever it is, right? So, talking about that end goal and understanding what the needs are is so important. And, yes, they need a redesign, but it might be that actually they're missing out on this huge opportunity. And the sooner we can identify that by the post method that I talked about earlier, where you're looking at your audience, you're looking at your business objectives, you have strategy, and that strategy might be, well, there's an opportunity here. We did a website a few years back for Zildjian. I don't know if you guys know Zildjian. They make cymbals for drum sets. And they pride themselves in being the premier cymbal maker. And when we started out, they said, okay, we need a website redesign. We'd like to update our brand. And our audience that we focus on is the professional drummer and the semi-pro drummer. And we tend to be kind of expensive. So when we did our research, first thing, going to the audience, interviewing the audience, looking out there, what do drummers do, what are drummers looking for, we found out that 56% of drummers have been playing the drums for a year or less. So that means that they're missing out on a huge amount of a huge audience, right? And Zildjian is an awesome name. Everybody knows Zildjian. Well, if you're a drummer, sorry. But it's like, it's an amazing brand. And so we said, hey, don't change your product. Just make a pack of cymbals that's for the beginner. Don't change your prices. And they did that, and their sales off the bat went up 20%. So, I mean, that was an opportunity that they just didn't even see, but it was part of our strategy because our strategy was to reach the broader audience. Talking about value, I love this thing. I found this is called the hierarchy of value. I got this from Seth Godin. I don't know if you guys know Seth Godin. He's got an awesome email. You should subscribe to it. That's not a spam email. It's value email. But the hierarchy of value is really cool because you start at the bottom. It's a pyramid thing. You start with function. So this means like if you're comparing two products and they both have the same function, you're going to go with the cheaper one, obviously. Beyond that, we have connection. All right, this is if one offers more connection than the other, then it has more value to you. Like this hotel over that one. Where's the tribe of people that use this particular product over this one? So anyway, you would go with connection. And once connection is established, and by the way, connection was kind of, in the case of the smartphone, connection was kind of given up once Apple created the App Store. The connection around that product was kind of given up. Once you have that, then you look for style. Does this one look better than that one? Does this one have the sexiness that this one does not have? Often, if it doesn't, people go in the case of a smartphone, they go and get a case so it looks better, just so it can stand out because that value is no longer there. And then beyond style, the only value that's left is really our desire for scarcity, the power of now. The only difference between the newer iPhone X and the one that's not so new is that I have the new one and you don't. That's the only difference, is that power of now. So it's pretty fascinating. But when you think of a product or a project that you're working on, where do you stand in this hierarchy of value? And when you understand that, you can really start seeing some opportunities to bring the brand forward. Here's another thing I absolutely love about marketing, and I feel that people fail to see, is that marketing is like dating. I love treating it like dating. It's about me relating to you as a person. Let's not forget that all projects are for human beings, and we're emotional, and we like to do things in certain ways. We like to be treated in a certain way. But like dating, meaning meeting somebody, trying to court somebody, trying to get somebody to be interested in you, trying to go on that date, that first date, that second date, whatever it is, right? How do you treat that person, I feel like your marketing should be exactly the same. Like, would you start spamming the person until you get their attention? That would never work. Would you just walk up and interrupt and just start talking and say, hey, I'm an awesome person, you should hang out with me? No, you would listen. You try to figure out what they're about. See what they're interested in. Say, hey, I do that too. I love to cook too. I can make a awesome whatever. So it's really interesting to kind of do that, and I love that. I love the idea that we're a brand is in a courtship with you and trying to not just get your attention, but get value, give you value, and get attention back. In the early days of when I started getting into user experience, I read this awesome article that talked about how information architecture can be looked at like a scale. On one side of the scale, you have the information that you want to convey, and on the other side, you have your user's attention, the attention that they have to spare. If you have a ton of information, well, then they have very little attention for each bit of that information. And if you present it in the wrong way, without good hierarchy, and without a good visual language, well, then people get frustrated and they leave. On the other side, if you have very little information, and people have a lot of attention to spare, well, then your information has to be spot on. Again, business objectives and audience needs is really the recipe for this. Looking at that, and then you get strategy. Every presentation has to have flames at one point. I hope you saw that. So talking about strategy, here's a great example. We did a redesign for John Hancock Insurance a few years back. It was an awesome redesign. I was the designer on it. I hope you love it. Anyway, they had, talk about bad strategy, they had they were running a Google AdWords campaign. And they wanted people to sign up for life insurance. And the Google AdWords campaign said, need life insurance, sign up easily now. And I know some of you know how Google Ads work, but the cost per click for that was $60. And it was leading them to a page that did not have a call to action. It was just a very busy page. It was their home page, and there was no clear path to success, no clear path on how to get life insurance. Isn't that amazing? I mean, so many people are doing this, and they were losing gobs and gobs of money because they wanted to be always at the top, and I don't even know what the budget was on this thing, but it was just absolutely crazy. Anyway, when we did the redesign, we started having not only an elegant visual language that resonated with the audience, but we started talking about goals, so you can see that there, and calls to action to really engage with the brand and learn and get your own life insurance. So I want to talk to you about a concept that we use at Boston Digital, and it's a really great way for teams to work together and be able to deliver delight at the end of a project. Because at the end of the day, it's not about just completing the project. It's about having a project that resonates, that gets you that next client. Having something that's worth talking about. Having something that is just absolutely exceptional. And people are like, oh my gosh, I know this is a life insurance website, but it is beautiful, okay? It's through a common design system. And this is really, really interesting because this affects the way developers work, the way UXers work, and the way designers work. I spoke in the beginning about how we really look for people who are interested in the way things work and who like taking their toys apart when they're kids and stuff. We all want to just build things, right? We all just want to do Legos, and we've found a common link between that sort of mentality and how you can approach a project. So our projects may look like this. I know they always feel like this, but they eventually become very, very structured and organized so everybody can have that vision necessary so they know what their next step is. And we call it component-based design. That allows, when you have component-based design, it allows you to understand how your project is going to develop and how you're going to, what your process is to get there. But also it allows you to have the space and time to have the really interesting conversations and collaboration with other teams so you can deliver delight, something unusual, something amazing. Keep it about a relationship. Go back to the courtship that is involved with products and services, that ultimately people are looking for value. So component-based design really allows us to have a way of developing things and designing things and still keeping everybody absolutely passionate about what they care about the most. We want to do amazing. We want to build cool things. We want to design cool things. We want to have projects that are worth talking about. So the component-based design really starts in user experience. And these, in case you've never seen wireframes, these are wireframes, guys. But this is a library of components. And it's really interesting because everything is built, has a structure, and is built in this very, very, very simple way. And then we build on those structures. In the same way with Legos, it's building blocks, okay? We take those blocks and then we do variations on those blocks. So for example, you might have in the top there a block that has an image, a call to action, a title, and some content. And that same block, you can take it for another page or in another instance, and then have it become a carousel thing, okay? I'm not suggesting this at the top of a page, by the way. We all know that carousels at the top of a page are dead, okay? So don't do those anymore. This is within something, so it might be like two products or something like that. On the design side, once this is understood, signed off, the designer can then look at this and do that same component-based design or component UI kit or library, whatever you want to call it, in design. This is what we did for Harvard Medical. And you can see that a lot of these components are very similar to each other, and they kind of borrow elements from each other. But not only are you far more organized, but you start having this visual library that is super easy, and then from that you can build pages. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but what does it mean on the development side? And on the development side, look at this, a video, it's freaking awesome. On the development side, all the components are done right before. And at Boston Digital, we have this thing where our components we have a component library. We start a new project, and this is Drupal, but we do it on all sorts of platforms. But you can see where the components are already made. This is an accordion item that's what a CTA block. There's no design, okay? Don't think that this is what we do. But there's no design here. And but you can already see how things are behaving. This is really cool because the structure's already there. Building the site is super easy. All the pre-processing is already done, and it's really awesome, right? Now we can collaborate. Now the front-end guys can start talking to the designers. And not just talking about painting by numbers, okay? Not just saying, hey, take these styles and apply it. Yes, they do that. But now we're going to also talk about functionality. We're going to talk about the little things that we all like and the little things that are like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect that, right? And it's really fascinating. And then you end up with something beautiful. You end up with a beautiful functionality. And this is also what we did for Harvard Medical. It's this homepage experience that opens up. It's beautiful. It's more about the overall message of Harvard. It's not just a website. It's not just taking their their content and dumping it in. It's about, okay, you guys are trying to do something different. And because of this component-based design, we're able to go back to the client and say, okay, we got their confidence because we know this is what the wires look like. This is this is the design language that you're getting. Okay. Now we can start talking about, okay, so what are we trying to do? Why should somebody choose Harvard? What are you guys really trying to say? And what's the courtship that we're going to do? When somebody comes in contact with your brand, how do you want them to feel? You know. And then we do little tweaks and all that stuff, and everybody else gets to witness this, and we all kind of march forward with this one fantastic system. We also have really cool processes to get to this design. We don't just plop it out. We have We do mood board designs. I don't know if some of you are familiar with that, but it's a design process that's kind of borrowed from interior design, where we don't really do like 3 versions of a design and have them choose, because unfortunately when you do that, clients tend to choose the safest design. They're not there to choose the edgiest design. They don't have the vision that we have working with a lot of different clients. You know what works better. You know what brings brands forward. So they're not going to choose that, unfortunately. So we don't work that way. We consult with them, get an understanding of what they want, or where they want to go, or where they see the brand going, and then we show them one design, and that design is in the form of a mood board. Like if I was going to go and redesign your living room, I wouldn't just paint the wall and say, hey, do you like pink? I would create a mood board, consult with you, show you different swatches, show you different colors, ideas for lamps and couches and stuff like that, and then kind of guide you through an understanding that, hey, pink might be cool. Anyway, so then that comes into this beautiful layout. With that, of course, we have mobile, we have a tablet view, desktop, whatever. We don't really necessarily need to start thinking in one particular view. A lot of people have said, hey, we put mobile first. I'm not sure we absolutely put mobile first. We think of design as this fluid, weird thing that is sometimes tough for clients to grasp, so they do need to see these mock-ups of, this is what a desktop homepage looks like. Or here's what mobile looks like. But we don't really think of it that way, because the component-based design allows you to be extremely flexible. It's great because you don't have afterthought front end, stuff like this. I found these and I thought that was just fantastic. Feels right, but doesn't always work. And then one thing that I absolutely love is that it takes away this awful question that can happen between developers and designers, and is this a deal breaker? Do we absolutely have to do this? Why do you want it to animate? Why do you want to put video there? And why do they say that? I mean, people have reasons for saying that. It may not be worth the effort, right? It doesn't fit the budget. If you have a component-based design, all that's already done. So it's way more automatic. And we don't absolutely need this. But, in a courtship, you do absolutely need it, because it's the little things, the little unexpected things that make people embrace who you are and interested in you. And then, of course, we don't have the time, which absolutely kills me. You do have the time when you look at what is repeatable and learn from project to project and always kind of refine, and then start borrowing from one project and bring it into another. Anything you do is value within your organization and should be looked at as something that you can reuse down the road. And, it's about building efficiently. We have to stop starting from ground zero and building a new foundation every single time. I put this up there because, the construction industry, they have a process. They have a way of doing plumbing, and it's the same for every building. They have a way of installing electricity or approaching electricity, and it's the same in every building. A lot of buildings start with, when you walk by a building site and they have that one center concrete column, and then around that they build everything. Why don't we do this with what we do when it comes to apps and websites? We should be able to have that instead of kind of like starting from scratch thing. Here's another really awesome project that we did talking about building. It was for Suffolk Construction, where we had all those components and we were able to deliver delight. And there's little animations and things, and you might think, oh, why is there that? Like that little red line follows you down for some weird reason. It's because it's awesome. It's because there's little unexpected things. And people might say, hey, is this a deal breaker? Of course it's not a deal breaker. But that drives me crazy. Yes, it is a deal breaker in the end, because in the end you have a product that's boring. You know, if you say that to enough things, then you're not ending up with things. Look at this cool thing. We made the bio photos animate. I mean, it's just, do you really need that? No, but people are talking about it. That's what's cool. And then we get a client that somebody calls us up and says, hey, I want what you did for that. Or they say, who did this? And these are people, what's awesome is that a website like this ends up on some award website or some designer blog thing. It's not people looking for construction. It's not somebody looking to build a building looking at this thing. It's other people like us who are like, how do they do this? This is awesome. I want that. You know? So, I feel like a lot of what we do isn't always about the client. It isn't always about that just the need to finish the project and go on to the next. To me, it's about building value in everything you do. And being proud of what you're doing, even if it's a construction site. And, you know, I can have this thing play again if you guys want. Oh, there you go. It's really cool. I mean, this right here that's drone footage, you know. And I don't know, it was so fun to do this project. So many little things. The only way that we got there is because we had that confidence, because everything was all set and we had the time to actually collaborate and say, hey, what can we do? But don't forget that some of the ideas that came out of this weren't necessarily from UX people or designers. It was also developers saying, hey, you know what, we could do this. Because we had created that spirit of collaboration, that culture around that. Developers can do anything. Do you guys like to hear that? Okay. But they can do everything in the right environment. Another cool thing that I want to leave you with is a project with the Zildjian, the symbol company I talked about earlier. They talk about opportunity. They came to us wanting a product website, and they wanted to look like Fender guitars. And, you know, we saw a problem in that. Now, do you guys know Fender guitars? Yes? I mean, how do you not? Even if you don't know Fender, you do. Okay? I could tell you, oh, it's the guitar that Jimi Hendrix plays. That's a Fender Stratocaster. Oh, okay, I get it. Or it's the guitar that Bruce Springsteen plays. All right, now you know what Fender is, right? But in the case of Zildjian, yeah, it's the round one with the hole in it, you know? You know that one? It's not iconic in that way. So we couldn't do the same thing as Fender, and we couldn't just position it as a product website. It had to be about the experience. And so we focused everything on not only having just beautiful, beautiful functionality. By the way, for every symbol, you can listen to the symbol. But also we wanted to show, what does it feel like to be a drummer? What does it feel like to be on stage? Like, look at this guy. He's right there, and the first thing you saw is cymbals. The drummer just so happened has the best seat in the house. He's got his drums, he's got his Zildjian cymbals in front of him, and he's got the roaring crowd, the singer, guitar player, whatever. And so we wanted to show, what does it feel like to be a drummer? Because when you show that feeling, you're creating the value around the brand beyond just showing symbols that all look alike. Because that was our problem. We couldn't do a website that just had a homepage of symbols. Here's the products. Oh, here's this one versus that one. Yeah, great. If I've never seen a symbol, I don't know what the difference is, right? So we want to show that feeling, show those emotions, and have people really embrace what's going on. You can also turn the volume on when you go to the website. It's really cool. Navigation, very beautiful, simple. I don't think we could have focused on that kind of stuff if we didn't have, that vision. Let me leave you with one quote that I absolutely love. This is Harry Bertoya, who is a furniture designer from the 60s. He says, "The urge for good design is the same as the urge to go on living." I absolutely love that quote because I like to replace good design with anything. The urge for a good process is the same as the urge to go on living. The urge for good development, good UX, the urge for creating a relationship with your audience is the same as the urge to go on living, because somehow, somewhere, there's always a better way of doing things. Thank you, guys. Any questions? We have some time. Yes.
So I'm pretty much the sole UI designer where I work, and I'm working with 5 developers. And it's a component-based design that we work with.
Okay.
But it's 6 years old, and they won't change anything at all. So do you have any advice on how I can get them to start working with me a little closer in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you, well, I mean, that it's 6 years old. You said 6 years old?
Yes.
Okay. If you're having a design that's 6 years old, the problem with that is that business changes every day. Businesses in general. It's a windy road. And unfortunately, marketing is rigid. So if you have a process that's 6 years old, well, what you're creating potentially could look 6 years old. Okay? If you create a website 6 years ago, today it looks 6 years old, right? So there is a need to adapt. There's a need to be good marketers. We need to change what we're doing to match business. It's about businesses going forward. It's about, so, businesses evolve and an audience evolve. Audience is becoming far more aware, etc. So I'm sure that there's needs of functionality that you guys are not addressing with a system that's 6 years old. So I would encourage some sort of collaboration. You have to figure out a way for teams to get together and discover what's new out there, and encourage them to see how that should change. It's a tough conversation to have.
Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah,
Yes.
6-year-old website. I'd be surprised if it was responsive, accessible, modern designs, size.
Exactly. Yeah. There's other. Yeah. And there's stuff like ADA compliance and. I mean, if you're not up to snuff with that, you get sued. So.
Right.
Yes.
I'm interested to know, in the case of your agency, it's so great to be able to get clients to do really great design work as a designer.
Mm-hmm.
What, in your case, does the handoff look like once you've fulfilled the contract? Maybe the contract included design and development. You've rebranded them maybe and created this new digital product that answers the needs and stuff. But then it's in their hands, right? So you may have art directed the things that we see on the site, like the examples you've shown. But then when things are in their hands, they have a component-based system design, a component-based CMS to work with,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in their hands to populate. Do your clients often have design teams that are?
Sometimes,
Do you train
are
them?
you trying to say that they kind of mess it up?
Well, it happens. Like I think
Because they mess it up. I
Yeah.
mean, the
Like,
thing is
what
that
you
you
might select
create,
is
you
a
have a
great photo.
you have a
That's-
project,
yeah.
and then delivering it is only the beginning. Day one is
Yep.
really when that starts. Where, I mean, you have to really instill the passion that you have into the client, and that's why I started off by saying, hey, digital is not just a nice to have; it's business. And if you're not understanding that, then it's just not going to work, right? Of course, you're always going to have that client that is stubborn and just doesn't want to understand that stuff. But when your website in this example is the epicenter of your digital presence. From that, there's so many other projects that need to happen, and you need to create that. So I guess the handoff is that the structure is only one thing. The content needs to live in that structure in a certain way, and you can't just dump in gobs of content. A project is also your opportunity to educate your client to understand that people don't read on the web. Tons of content isn't working. This old article isn't working anymore. You use data for that. You can say, hey, this old article is not being used. I hate going back to Zildjian again because you guys think I only did one website, but Zildjian had a huge library of how to clean a symbol, how to maintain it, how to carry it, what do you do if a symbol cracks, blah, blah, blah. Nobody goes to Zildjian.com to find that stuff out. They go to YouTube. They go to Google and they find some other guy who's passionate about it, and they follow that. So, or they just go to social media. And so what we did is we took out all those pages on their site and we threw it all away. And we said, because people aren't using it, nobody's gone to this, 5 people have gone to this in the last 3 months, and it's not worth it. It's not doing, it's tarnishing your message. So I guess it's really educating the client to understand that. There's one way in the back first, sorry.
I'm just curious about your design exploration process. You mentioned that you only present one design to the client.
Yeah.
But internally, like, how does it work? Like, how many designs do you guys come up with? Like, how do you go about just choosing one to end up presenting to the client?
Okay, we use one designer. The way we do it is that we have a creative consultation with the client. And that's where we ask them, 50 different questions about design. We might do a workshop around it, and we try to understand where the brand is going, where it's been. They can bring anything, brochures of their old stuff, competitors that they like, other websites that they like, and we look at what the opportunity is, and we try to understand what they're looking for. Because often, it's not so much about their competitor, and it's not always about doing better than their competitor. It's about looking at what the opportunities are. So, I don't know, for example, some people look at, maybe they do one thing, but their competitor could be, their idea competitor is an entirely different space. For example, right now we're working with a company that does Wi-Fi networking. And we position their idea competitor as Nest, the guys who do the thermostat. Why is Nest so amazing? It's just an object that makes your house hotter or colder. But it's amazing because they're creating a story around their brand, and they're delivering a promise of something, some delight. And so we say, hey, that's what you guys should do, that type of thing. This is totally different. So we have all these weird conversations around that, and we then we deliver a creative brief that says, this is what you're looking for, here's the opportunities, here's the strategy. Not the business strategy, but the design strategy, specific to how we're going to do it. You want to humanize your brand, you want to reach these types of audiences. So we're going to use photography that is intimate. We're going to show people being successful with your products. Okay? And then from that designer goes and creates a mood board. And the mood board it has elements of a website. It has elements of a style guide, but it isn't. And it has some photography on it. And but most importantly, it has that juxtaposition of elements, so you can see what does this new font look like with this photography or whatever. What's so cool about that is that you're allowing your client to visualize what the homepage is going to be like, or what the user experience is going to be like before they even see it. And I guess what I'm getting at is that the mood board is, the sole purpose of the mood board is to give confidence to the client that they're in good hands. Because once you have that, then your designer can go off and just do something. And the client can't wait to see it. But also, and I know I'm giving you a super long answer, but you sell the mood board, you sell the design. And I don't know if some of you have seen Mad Men, but you need to do the Don Draper thing where you don't just show the design, you walk them through it. But even before that, we make sure that we own the conversation. You turn the lights down. You tell them that they're going to like what they're going to see. You tell them why they're going to like what they're going to see. You tell them how it works with their business objectives. You tell them what the strategy is. And then you show the design, and you know what? They like it because you told them they were going to like it. So you kind of sell it, and you walk them through it. And once you do that, people love it.
We're gonna wrap it up.
Okay, you had one last question?
Yeah, it'll take you longer probably than we have. I'll catch you.
Okay, cool.